Okay, here we are. Maggie and I are on our way to a friend's house in New Hampshire. We've been invited to do some metal detecting around a large property with an old house, so hopefully we'll find some cool treasure and maybe share a little history of the area. So stay tuned and hope you enjoy the video. Okay, here we are at the house, and this is Maggie's friend Apollo, who has come to help us hunt. Here's the house. Little barn back there. Place was built in 1895, but there's some talk that there could have been a homestead here much earlier than that. There are stone fences on top of the property, and maybe a cellar hole or two, but we have to check that out. So we've checked the lawns around the house. They're very junky. Some modern pennies and part of a crotal bell is all we've found so far. So we're going to go up into the fields and check around the stone walls and see what we can see. Okay, here are the stone walls. Very, very big hunks of stone. It almost doesn't look like field clearance. These are boulders. So way up there, you can see right about there, there's a perpendicular stone wall. So we're gonna go look up there to see if there's any sign of a homestead being there. Okay, and here's the stone wall, that perpendicular stone wall a little bit closer. And it's pretty stout. There was a lot of work put into that sucker. Don't see anything that looks obviously like a cellar hole or an old chimney, but we're gonna keep looking around and do some detecting along and around the wall. Okay, I have this out of the hole here. Don't know what it is yet. Strong 8081, so let's find it. Oh, it's a little hi, Apollo. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. Hi. Oh, okay. It's a little debuckle. Kind of cool. Brass. Not sure how old that is, but it was deep. It was a good 7-8 inches, so might be pretty old. Okay, here's a pretty clear. This is a pretty clear high tone. 75, 76, so let's dig it up. And that has turned out to be a random hunk of copper. What do you think, Apollo? You look disappointed. Yeah. Yeah, me too. Oh well. Let's find another target. Okay guys, here we are. This is a couple days later, back home in Vermont. We didn't find a whole lot in New Hampshire. It's a big piece of property though, and when I was getting ready to leave, we took a walk up to the top of the land, and by some of those stone walls, we did find what might be a cellar hole, an old cellar hole. It looks suspicious. We didn't have time to hunt it, but we're definitely gonna be back to take a look at that again. So for the rest of this video, what I will do is I'm going to show you a couple of sort of nasty, confusing finds that I thought were great at first, and then they turned out to be junk. I'm going to show you a typical penny signal on the metal detector, and then see what that looks like. And then at the end, I'll do a wrap up that will show basically everything, or most everything, that I've found in my backyard since I started this hobby about 6 months ago. So that'll be kind of neat. We'll talk about some of the different relics that I found and what they are and what they say about the history of this property and this area in general. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoy the rest. Okay, so this is something with potential. I had to go and get my trimmers here because I found this, I don't know if you can see it, round maybe container in the roots of these two sugar maples right between them. So maybe deliberately placed. It's certainly been there for a long time because the roots are grown up all around it. So I'm gonna try to cut it loose and see what it is, and I'll show you guys. Here's the top of it, a little better cleaned off. But this huge root is kind of in the way, so I'm gonna go grab a bigger tool, cut that out, and see if we can pry her loose. Well, I got it out. Here's my treasure chest full of gold coins. Unfortunately, turned out to be an oil filter. Even still smells like one. Oh well. Pretty exciting for a minute there. Okay, it's a chilly 7:30 in the morning. Just put my son on the school bus, and I decided to do a few passes in the yard before I got my day started, and found this. 95, 94, 96. Let's see what that is. Okay, well, so far I've got about, I don't know, 15 inches down, and it looks like a big chunk of aluminum, so it's probably just a smashed up can or pipe blade or something, but maybe it's a jar of gold coins or diamonds or the Holy Grail or something in there. So I'm gonna dig it up anyway. If it's something cool, I'll show you. Okay, so I don't know what that is other than a bazinga. It's aluminum for sure. That sort of tongue-shaped piece was press riveted onto that area there. I just kind of Conan'd it off of there just to see what it was. I don't know. Any guesses? Let me know. It's aluminum. It was about 14 inches down. I have no idea why it would be that deep, but anyway, not the Grail. Okay, another find from the other day here at my house. Two large chunks of cast iron with pretty intricate designs on them. It was buried, I don't know, about 15 feet from the back of the house in about 12 inches of soil. Not sure if it was a covering to a, I mean, it looks like on some of the old wood-fired stoves, like cooking stoves, they would sometimes have compartments like that where it was sort of a roll, like a roll down top where you could, I don't know, bake bread or heat things. I'm not exactly sure. That's the closest guess I have. It's very pretty, but if anybody has any ideas, please put a comment below because I would like to know what this is. All right. Okay guys, so I'm in an area of my yard that I couldn't detect previously because this was here. It's all been chopped up, ready for me to split it, but I wanted to show you what I think is probably a typical penny signal. So it's reading high 70s, low 80s. Please forgive the traffic noise. At 4 to 5 inches. So let's dig it up and see if it is in fact a penny. Okay, so I think we have an accurate prediction plus a little bonus find. This little marble was in there with the penny, and you can see it's right there. So let's see. Yeah, that's a wheat penny. These were minted between 1909 and 1959. And this one's gonna be, let's see. Whoop. Looks like 1950, maybe? Yeah, I think so. We'll clean that up a little bit better and take a look at it later, but that is a very, very typical find. I literally have a jar of pennies that I found on my property. So we'll keep looking, see what else we can find. Okay, here's another potentially typical coin signal here. Maybe, maybe not. Low 40 or low 50s, high 40s, a little grungy. So that may be a nickel. So let's dig it up and see if we found a nickel about 2 feet away from where I found that 1950s penny. Okay, so that was not a nickel, but rather a pretty smashed up 22 caliber bullet, modern one. Modern meaning, you know, since the 1880s. So that's what that was. Lead, nickel, and gold, interestingly, all ring in the same neighborhood of sort of the 50s. So anyway, interesting find nonetheless. Spent bullet in my front yard. I imagine that was a while ago that was fired, because the local constabulary would not appreciate it much these days. Okay guys, I found a real good signal here. 85, 86, so that could be something good. I'll dig it up. Well, that sucker did not want to come out of the ground, but I got it. I finally got it. It's a Barber quarter. 1915. All right. Nice. Very cool. All right. That might be it for today. That's good enough, I think. Okay guys, this is going to serve as a general wrap-up of the metal detecting I've done in the past 6 months or so since becoming interested in the hobby. I'm going to go through this stuff. The vast majority of these items I've found on my property in northern Vermont. And that's going over probably about, I don't know, half of the area of my land. I've just gone over the grass area essentially, so maybe an acre or a little bit less. I haven't done the woods or the pond, so pretty small area to find this much stuff. But again, this house has been here for 205 years at least, and there's some evidence that the land would have been used before that time by other farmers. So starting off, right here, we have lots of typical household and farming items. These are 2 brass buckles. This is a D buckle that I found in New Hampshire that you would have seen earlier in this video. This pin here, I'm not sure what this is, although it is made out of brass or tombac, which is an old style alloy of brass. I'm not sure what that would have been used for, but it was made out of a high quality material. And then this here is the knob, an adjustment knob for an old oil lamp. That was the only piece of the lamp that I found. So down here, some interesting finds. This big button here, it is a button, and I can show you how we know that because of the shank on the back. That's where it would have been threaded onto a coat, and this is what's referred to as a dandy button. That's also made out of tombac, that alloy of brass, and this would have been in fashion in the late 1700s or very early 1800s. So this piece is likely older than the house itself. And then here I have a smaller button, again out of tombac, so probably early in that same time period. But I mean, sorry, a little bit later, because it's a smaller size, less flashy. And then the final thing in that pile is just a St. Christopher's medal that I found pretty close to the back of the house. So up here we have firearms, projectiles, and cases. We've got these 2 are modern-ish, meaning more recent than 1880 bullets. This is that Smash 22 bullet that I found. This is a modern rifle casing. I found literally hundreds of those in my backyard, so I don't know if somebody used to have a little rifle range back there. This particular cartridge I think is a .303 British, and that would have dated from probably soon after the First World War. This case here I kept because it's interesting. It's a .32 rimfire, which has not been produced in many decades, so that's an older piece as well. Now this ball here, you can see if it'll focus, it's a round lead ball, and it's got sort of a shaved area around the circumference of the ball, making that flat piece. Now what that tells us is that this would have been fired out of a something like a Colt revolver, a cap and ball black powder revolver, because when you smush the ball into the cylinder hole on top of the powder, the edges of the hole basically cleave off a tiny ring of lead, and that serves to make a gas seal around the bullet, so you get maximum velocity. And that would have been from a Colt revolver of the Civil War period. So not quite sure why a Civil War handgun bullet was in my backyard, but that's what that is. Pretty interesting. Here we have some old square nails. They have a square cross section. These are handmade nails. Those would have been used up until about 1880. In 1880, that's when the round nail became more popular, and the handmade nails fell out of fashion because they were much more expensive, obviously. Up here, we've got a big pile of modern coins, dimes, quarters, lots of wheat pennies, and some, more modern memorial pennies right there. They're simply everywhere. This isn't even all of the ones I found in my backyard. So lots of people dropping pennies throughout the last century or so. This is a very interesting coin that I found. It's a 1 penny from the from British West Africa, and it's dated 1938, I believe. Yeah, so no idea how that got in my backyard. It's a colonial coin of one of the African colonies rather than one of the North American colonies. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And here is a more interesting penny, a little bit older than the wheat pennies. And this is an Indian head. These were minted from, I think, like the 1860s up until about 1908 or something like that. It's kind of a neat coin. Got them upside down, though. I used to be a coin collector when I was a kid. I always thought that was a male Indian warrior, but it's in fact, it's supposed to be Lady Liberty wearing a headdress. So nice early example of cultural appropriation. Thought that's kind of interesting. Right here we've got Sharon's name tag, so if you see Sharon, let her know that I have that. These are the silver coins that I found in my backyard. My first YouTube video about metal detecting focused on this one. It's a 2 real Spanish silver coin from 1807. This one was made in Mexico City, and you can tell that by that right there. The O over M mint mark means Mexico City, so that was pretty cool. Also have a Walking Liberty $50 that I found from 1940. That's a gorgeous coin. I've always liked that one. That's got the big eagle on the back. That was an exciting find. And then the first silver coin actually that I found on my property is this capped bust dime from 1814, interestingly dating to the same year that the house was built. Thought that was cool. And then we've got the Mercury dime from more recent history, 1935. Also a very pretty coin. And this Barber quarter that you guys saw me dig up just in one of the last few clips there. Also a neat coin. So, finally we've got some kids items here. This is a Boy Scout neckerchief holder. Here's a Volkswagen Bug. And then these two are interesting pieces. This first one is made out of copper, and it's got all these Egyptian hieroglyphs stamped into it. It's really quite interesting. I'm guessing it was part of a toy, but you know, it's a piece of stamped copper, so it's not, wouldn't have been a cheap thing to manufacture pretty much ever. So if it is part of a toy, it was an expensive one. If anybody knows what that is, let me know. And then down here, this little lion guy, which I thought was kind of cool. Seems to be cast in something like pot metal, but again, no idea what this is from. Just thought it was kind of cool, so I kept it in my finds. So that's basically a wrap up of the stuff that I found, mostly on my property. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to keep making these, so like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.